Good afternoon, it's Pastor Marty from the Afternoon Drive. It's the tale of two narratives, and who's telling the truth?
Again, I pray for the President of the United States. I wish that his family or his administration or his staff would have an intervention for the good of the country.
Former campaign manager and top advisor to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway was actually in the room when this all went down, and this is what she has to say.
So can we start off first with what happened in the White House yesterday? You were there and actually had an exchange of words with the speaker yourself.
I did, and all these ridiculous stories. The president was in a rage, he's fuming, he stormed out, temper tantrum. There was none of that. He actually never raised his voice. He came in, stood at the end of the table in the cabinet room outside the Oval and said, look, folks, I want to do infrastructure. I want to do great things for this country. We've been doing great things for this country. But within the last hour, you had a meeting and came out and said I'm engaged in a cover-up. That's not true. But he took the case directly to Nancy Pelosi because she was the one who came to the mics and said that the president was engaged in a cover-up, which is nonsense. All she had to do was either move her meeting to later in the afternoon with her caucus, where she's under enormous pressure to get on with impeaching the president, which she has said she doesn't want to do right now. Or she could have said, I'm not going to talk to you right now. We're on our way to the White House to work on infrastructure. Let's meet again at 2 or 3 o'clock, and I'll give you the rundown of the whole day. But no, they can't resist going out and giving a live running commentary of what her more outrageous, liberal, hell-bent on getting this president out of the White House members are pressuring her to do. So the president said, let's work on infrastructure. And then he left very calmly. And I want to emphasize that because he never raised his voice a single time, was very polite, and said, you can't have two tracks. You can't say that I'm engaged in a cover-up. You can't want to impeach and investigate and then pretend you want to legislate. So get back to me when you're done playing these games, and I'll be ready. I said, respectfully, Madam Speaker, would you like to address some of the specifics the president talked about? And she said, I talk to the president, I don't talk to staff. Because let's face it, she's the sixth most rich member of Congress. She treats everybody like they're her staff. She treats me like I'm either her maid or her driver or her pilot or her makeup artist, and I'm not. And I said to her, how very pro-woman of you, per usual, because she's not very pro-woman. She's pro-some woman, a few woman.
Why do I not have any problem believing Kellyanne that Cruella Demented, Nancy Botox Pelosi, is rotten to the individuals that she sees as subservient around her? What a good liberal she is. I mean, after all, the liberals are supposed to represent the little guy. But as I talked about yesterday, liberalism has progressed. And instead of progressives being about the masses and what the people want, they are now about what they want. That you as the masses who voted for Donald Trump, you don't know what you're doing, you didn't know what you're doing, and you need them as the liberal elite to set the record straight because you can't be trusted with voting. You voted for the wrong person. That all said, Nancy Pelosi out there trying to paint this narrative that the president was out of control, that she prays for him. As a man of theology, as a man of faith, may I say this candidly, openly, honestly? I'd rather have Satan pray for me than Nancy Pelosi. First of all, there's no way she prays for this president, other than if she's begging God, please, do something horrible to him. She doesn't pray for the president, so big lie right there. His children, his staff, they need to do an intervention for the good of the country. The good of the country would be if you actually had a shred of integrity. You and Chuck E. Cheese Schumer and Adam Schiff for Brains and Jerry the Nads Nadler and the rest of that ilk that carry your water at CNN and PMSNBC, if you all did what was best for the country, resign your positions and go away. The lie, the phony Russian collusion narrative, working hand in hand with Hillary Rodham Clinton, who was in bed and in money up to her eyeballs with Russia to get whatever she could, dirt on Donald Trump, to create it, to use the weaponized Obama justice system through the intelligence communities to secure illegal FISA warrants, to surveil a private citizen, and then use all that information to try to pull off a coup of a duly elected sitting president. That's what we've been given by James Comey. That's what we've been given by Barack Obama. That's what we've been given by Nancy Pelosi. And they accuse Donald Trump of a cover-up? Are you kidding me? Now, because I am a pastor, and part of my job is to help and to enlighten, let me help you, Nancy. See, you and Chuck E. Cheese calling your little press conferences and talking about how off the rails President Trump was, why, too fat, and he bounded his fist and he stormed out. Remember, President Trump called his own press conference. We showed clips of that yesterday. He was calm, cool, collected. America got to see the visual of Donald Trump in the Rose Garden simply explaining, look, if all they're going to do is lie about me, accuse me of cover-up, let's see, I was exonerated. No Russian collusion, no obstruction. So what exactly, if there was no crime, am I covering up? He turned over 1.4 million pages of documentation to Team Mueller. Not to mention every single member of his staff was interrogated, including one White House council member for 30 plus hours. He claimed no executive privilege whatsoever during the Mueller investigation. Mueller came back with his report. The Dems don't like it, and they want a redo. And the president has said, you've already had 2.5 years on this. Enough is enough. I've been exonerated. You know, there is this thing in this country that when you're found innocent. But apparently, Nancy Pelosi and Jerry the Nads Nadler, we all know of their disdain for the Constitution because it was written by rich guy slave owners. And so, you know, they would like a brand new Constitution. We know they have a total disdain and hatred of the Constitution and our actual form of government. Nancy, on the one hand, knows she hasn't got what she needs to pull off an impeachment, yet she's got to convince the liberal wingnuts, the progressive fruitcakes in her party, that she's with them. So she talks about, we need an intervention, because obviously this president's crazy. But there's no visual, sorry Nancy, to back that up. There stood the president in the Rose Garden, completely calm and collected, and said, look, if they want to have witch hunts and investigations, fine. But I'm not playing along with this anymore. I'm ignoring their subpoenas. I'm ignoring this nonsense. And when they really want to get back to the business of the American people, I'm here, I'm ready. But we're not going to do both. You're not going to run out to the media and say I'm a liar and a cover-up and then come in my office, and say, oh, Mr. President, let's get something done. Yeah, you know what horse you can ride out on, right? But the president kept the visual, and that's what people saw, and that's what people are seeing in their sound bites and news clips. The president was calm, but there you have Chuck and Nancy trying to describe how the president was, and they're the ones that come off looking unhinged and batcrap crazy. Well, we know that Nancy Botox Pelosi is actually crazy. This takes me back many years when President Ronald Reagan was giving some kind of a speech in a beautiful natural park, and you know there were ducks flying in and landing behind him as he's giving the speech, and they're swimming around on the pond, and then they take off, and then there was this big red, white, and blue balloon drop, and it was just breathtaking. And a news commentator said to one of the Reagan staff members, you know that tonight when we air this, we're going to actually talk about President Reagan's real record on the environment, and it's not good. And the Reagan staffer looked at that news commentator and said, say whatever you want. We got the visual. Nobody's going to pay any attention to your running commentary because we got the visual. You know who understood that? Bill Clinton. You know who doesn't understand that? The modern Democratic Party. Nancy's out there with the narrative. Chucky's out there with the narrative. President Trump has the visual. And speaking of visual, if ever there was somebody that needed an intervention because she's crazy, insane, and completely inept and not up to the job mentally, that would be Nancy Pelosi.
Today is the 1st of May. Hooray, hooray. The 1st of May, we used to say when I was a little girl. It was either called Memorial Day or Decoration Day. That's history to you. It's my youth. Oh, I don't support it, but it's not, again, it's not like, in other words, there's an emergency. There's a burning building. We have to put out the fire. I'm not going to have a conversation about the color of the buckets that the water is in. I don't know if these people were all sprung from the head of Zeus, or maybe they're all Native Americans. Bless their hearts. But somebody came from someplace. Do you have any questions? I was thinking about it on Sunday when I was praying for the Republicans in church, as I do at least every Sunday. I pray for the Democrats and the Republicans for our country. What his name is, Isa, and this is why I've said this is a game changer, that it's a whole new ball game. This is me throwing up a ball. I think so. I think so. I think so, yeah. Congratulations to sportsmanship. Just kick the can a little bit, not even down the road, but down the path a little bit. I don't know if it's conventional, but it wasn't wisdom. Take it off the table.
He's publicly
Take
said
it off the table. It's just, don't mess with the children. I do think the House of Representatives at this time is an unsafe place for children and other living things. The bishops talk about a baby Jesus. What would we do if Moses had not been accepted by the Pharaoh's family? We wouldn't have the 10 Commandments. They don't know. Is that the one where we're singing, We Shall Overcome? Well, what's to think? You mean that I was smiling and singing and... Well, maybe they were being pulled too tightly, I don't know. Anyway, I just loved yesterday. I just thought it was the best thing. I think that's some kind of an acronym, but I get these acronyms all mixed up. But it starts with bank on American Opportunity Tax, American student, bank on student, so that B-O-S-E-L. Does that mean anything? No? Because we are sophisticated. Now, I used to be on the street. I was an advocate. I had the signs 30 years. Single payer, single payer, single payer. Public option I never heard of. Single payer.
To any of the Pelosi kids that are watching, please, you need an intervention for Mom. That's it. That's my rant for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button. Share this everywhere you can. Our numbers are starting to come back up. We're starting to pick up some subscribers, and I know that's because of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. YouTube has messed with our algorithm, but you spreading the word, you're getting us out there, and I really, really appreciate that. I do read your comments. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel, tell others about it, and smack the bell and get my next rant.